Bobo here. Welcome back to the channel. If you play your cards right these days, you can really have fun with the old guy card, as I did here a couple years ago. I was having, it's been a couple years, it's been probably 10, 12, 15 years ago. At any rate, I was having a problem with my reception on my Sprint phone. I lived in the country up in northwest Ohio, and we had woods around, so my reception really wasn't that great for a lot of the time. At any rate, I went through the drill. I went through Verizon, I went through Sprint, I went through a couple others, and just couldn't get adequate coverage. Finally, I went back to Sprint because they assured me that their coverage was more than adequate for my area. This kid went on his map there in the store, and I gave him my zip code, my address, and he went on that cute little map, came back and said, "Yes, sir, you're going to be covered." He says, "I can guarantee you." Well, got home with my nifty new Sprint phone and service, and sure enough, started dropping calls again. What a pain in the ass. You know, when I was probably at my most drinking period, I never had drop calls unless I was using that black phone with the curly Q, but then I understood why. Anyway, so I just keep getting these drop calls with Sprint. So I called them up and started through the drill, talked to them about it, and they said, "Well, our service shows that you should be getting complete coverage." Okay, fine. Then what do you do then? So I went into the store and talked to them, and a couple weeks later, a week or so later, and they sent me this box I could plug into my computer for the computer to boost the signal. Well, that worked for about half a call, and then it quit. So I just kind of messed around with it. At that time, I was flying, so a good part of the time I was out and about away from home, but then there were that times I was at home, and I wanted good service. So this one day, about 9 o'clock, 9:30, I had just had enough. So I went into the Sprint store, and I walked in a Sprint store in Perrysburg, Ohio, and they had these two guys sitting behind the desk with a third seat between them that was empty. So I walked right up in the middle, and there were probably maybe 3 or 4 other people in the store at that time, just kind of browsing about. Now, one of the things with the old guy card is you can really project your presence. So I walked up to the desk and I said, one of the little gomers said, "Can I help you, sir?" Well, of course you can help me. So I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "I'd like to speak to a manager, please." So they called for some guy, and out around the back walked this associate, and he had on a white shirt and khaki pants, cute little fella. And he said, "May I help you, sir?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "I want to talk to you about my Sprint phone." I said, "I am just about beat up with this thing, and I've had enough." So he says, "Well, what's your phone number?" I gave it to him, and he went on his computer. He said, "Well, our computer model shows that you should be more than adequately covered." And I said, "Well, okay, that's fine. Now look at the history I have of coming in to talk to you about my service." So he went to another screen and he says, "Wow." He says, "You have reached out quite a bit." And I said, "Yeah, that's my point." So I said, "But it came to a head last night." And he says, "What do you mean, sir?" Now I'm speaking in a little bit louder voice. I said, I went over to my girlfriend's for dinner. And after dinner, I said, we were sitting there, and one thing led to another, and it looked like I might be getting lucky last night. But the problem was, I said, it began getting dark. And I'm of that age where I can't really see to drive well at dark. So as much as I hated to, it's something you don't want to rush into, not at my age. Now, these two guys sitting on either side of the cute little fella, they're kind of looking about like, "Oh, I'm so damn glad he didn't stop and start talking to me." So now I laid it on. I said, it just was heartbreaking. So she told me or asked me, she said, have you ever heard of this thing the young folks are engaging in these days called phone sex? And I said, the hell you say? She says, no. She says, no. And I hear it works pretty well. And I said, well, I'll be damned. Who knew? She said, you up for trying it tonight? And I said, well, why not? I said, I really don't feel comfortable driving after dark. I said, I've had a couple of scares. So she says, well, why don't you go home and when you get settled in, give me a call and we'll try it. Okay, sounds like a good deal to me. So I drove home about 15, 20 minutes, went in the house, took care of the dog, took care of this, that, and the other, and settled in and gave her a call. And by God, wouldn't you know, that was working like a champ. I mean, we were both getting into it pretty well. And I said, just when we got to the part, Sprint dropped the damn call. And I'll tell you what, as much as I tried, I could not speed dial back quick enough, and the mood was lost. Well, this guy's standing there looking at me. He's looking at his two co-workers, and he is really uncomfortable. So he says, sir, what exactly is it you want from Sprint? And I said, easy. I said, I want out of my contract. And he says, done. And that's all I wanted in the first place. You give me a service that doesn't work. But if I went in there and told him it didn't work, this, that, and the other, well, I'd have to hear some crap about the contract I signed, this, that, and the other, and I wasn't in the mood for it. So I concocted that story, and it worked like a champ. Please feel free to use it. Good seeing everybody, and we'll see you again soon on the channel. Take care.